movie is disappointing from both a Doctor Strange fan's perspective and a Wanda's perspective, a Wanda fan. It's just kind of disappointing.
The Wanda fans might come for me. They might come for me. What's up, you guys? I'm back with another video. Today, we are going to be talking about none other than this thing that exists. Specifically,
This guy right here, Doctor Strange himself, and his current sequel,
Multiverse of Madness. As you can see, I literally wrote down stuff so that I can kind of stay on topic and like know what it is that I'm talking about, basically.
I'm going to break this video up into a spoiler-free portion and a portion that actually has spoilers and goes in depth about the movie. So those will be time-stamped. And if I can figure out how to do that thing where you break it into chapters, then I will do that, because that's actually even easier.
For those of you who haven't seen the movie yet and want a spoiler-free rundown of my opinion that nobody asked for, here it is. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the CGI, I guess. I think that the CGI was fairly visually pleasing, actually. I did see it in 3D. I don't know if that affects it at all, if that's gonna skew my opinion, but I thought it was fairly beautiful.
Now, with a lot of the more recent Marvel movies, and just with movies that rely on CGI in general, there were definitely some wonky parts where you look at it and you're like,
But aside from those, for the most part, the CGI I thought was fairly good. Next, I want to talk about the aspect of the horror. I would say for horror movie buffs, I feel like this movie would be considered very mild in the horror genre, but that's not really a problem in my eyes, I don't think, because it's not really supposed to be a horror. It's a superhero movie that lends itself to horror.
because of that, I think that even though in the horror movie circle, it's probably considered very mild and not really the more scary or horrific type of movie, for Marvel, it is definitely a horror movie.
But they still did pretty good considering the fact that this is not supposed to be the next Final Destination, right? It's not supposed to be Annabelle. It's not supposed to be Chucky. It's not supposed to be Insidious. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be a Marvel movie at the end of the day. I think that the gore, jump scares, there's a couple, and the suspense, I think were pretty well done for a movie that's trying to balance the superhero genre with the horror genre. Again, this is not a horror movie. It's still a Marvel movie, so you can't do too much without taking away from the fact that these are superheroes.
Now, unfortunately, the pace, I have a couple cons with the movie.
One of them is that the movie feels rushed. You're thrown right into it, and you never really stop moving, which is okay, right? I think that certain movies, you don't want to stop moving. You want to keep going. You want to keep the action going. You want the pacing to continue to move forward. But this was almost too much. I think it's like 2 hours and like 6 minutes if you want to be exact. And to me, that has never fared well for any Marvel movie, but especially not one that is supposed to be this intense, if that makes sense. Doesn't mean it needed to be 3 hours like Endgame and Eternals and Batman. It doesn't need to be 3 hours, but capping something like this at 2, it could have benefited from like 30 more minutes, genuinely. Another con, which
I should have known that this was going to happen because the fans kind of already made it so before the movie even came out, but
I'm gonna break it to you guys. Strange kind of feels like he's a side character in his own movie. And that's all I'm going to say, because I think that if I say literally anything else, it'll lend to being spoilery.
like, I was worried that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's presence in the movie would make Tom's version of Spider-Man feel very overshadowed. That didn't happen at all. And I think that that was really great, because if anything, it only added to his growth and improvement. It didn't take away, it didn't overshadow. And I was so worried that Multiverse of Madness was going to fail to do that by adding in another big Marvel character. And then they did, so that was super fun. Super fun. We'll get into that later.
And lastly, this one kind of lends itself to being a little bit spoilery if I go too in depth.
But the movie's advertising itself sets the movie up for failure in more than one way, and I will only state the ways that aren't spoilery. One of the ways is that as we got closer to the movie, the trailers were just throwing out things that honestly gave too much away.
That sets it up for failure, because a movie like this, where they're trying out a new genre and, you know, the world of Marvel is becoming more expansive, something like this, you really want to keep it a surprise for your audience as much as possible. That way, when your audience gets to see everything for themselves, it really feels like an experience. But yeah, that's everything that's spoiler free. My personal rating is a 6.5 out of 10. I genuinely don't think it's extremely rewatchable.
Which sounds terrible now that I'm saying that out loud, but it isn't. That doesn't mean it's terrible, though. Which is why I stick in like the 6.5 out of 10 region. 7 feels too generous, 5 or below feels a little too harsh, in my opinion.
And now, for anybody who has seen the movie or doesn't care about spoilers,
let's get crack-a-lackin'. Let's start with the advertising. So, as I said before, I think that as we got closer to the movie, too many of the trailers and commercials and like TV spots and stuff became way too close to giving us away the whole film, essentially.
Also, another reason why advertising for this movie kind of screwed up the movie is because the movie was completely advertised as if we were getting a whole different plot of the movie. And I have several gripes with this.
At the end of No Way Home, we get that first credit scene with Venom, and then we get a second credit scene, which isn't really a scene, but in fact, the trailer for Multiverse of Madness, the very first trailer. The trailer opens up with Wong saying what he said in No Way Home. He says, strange, and then I believe he says, I told you not to cast that spell. The spell that we know is the, I forget the actual magic term for it, but the spell that makes everybody forget that Spider-Man is Peter. Not the second spell that they do to fix the mess, but the first one that gets messed up in the first place. So we immediately go, oh shoot, his actions in No Way Home have now messed up the multiverse again, and now he's got to fix it. Because that's quite literally how that first trailer opens up. And then what's the very next thing we see? We see Strange approaching Wanda and saying, what do you know about the multiverse? Asking her for help. So basically, we're painted the picture that Strange has severely messed up the multiverse. We're under the understanding that what is about to happen is solely his fault, and that he needs the help of Wanda to fix it. Now, even as we got closer to the movie, even like some of the more recent trailers that I've seen, still include Wong being like, Strange, what did you do? Literally, that is a line where he says, Strange, what did you do? Still assigning the blame of whatever's happening to Strange. But we know that's not true. Strange didn't do anything. Like, the entire plot of the movie is not what we were advertised for. I mean, I thought at first, okay, maybe I just misconstrued the trailer. No, there were memes the second that No Way Home came out, and we saw that trailer at the end, there were memes about how mad Peter would be if he found out that the multiverse was broken anyway and that he didn't need to get his identity erased by everybody. And everybody was so adamant about wondering what the hell Steven did to cause the multiverse. That's not the plot of the movie. At all.
At all. Not even a little bit. And this is where my next gripe comes in. This movie is just WandaVision Part 2. And so here are my gripes with that. Number one, we were completely advertised falsely, which makes no sense. Number two, we don't get the development from Doctor Strange that I would have personally loved to see.
When you look across the MCU, the only other movie that we've gotten that has the focus of just Doctor Strange is Doctor Strange, the first one. Any other time that he's made an appearance since then, he's pretty much been cleaning up after other people's messes. When he made an appearance in Thor Ragnarok. Even in Infinity War, he was kind of cleaning up messes, but also helping in the fight. And then No Way Home, cleaning up Peter's mess.
Now he finally gets his second movie after years. And this is what we get? Him still cleaning up after somebody else's mess? I mean, he gets no, progression. You get to the end of the movie and you kind of just feel like you've watched WandaVision again.
I would say that my next gripe would be with Wanda's story, which again goes back to the fact that this is not the movie that we thought we were getting.
I expected, based on the end of WandaVision, I expected her to go into her villain era, obviously. Everybody did. But this movie was painted as though Doctor Strange messed up. Doctor Strange fixed mess up. And unfortunately has to go to, and I'm saying unfortunately for a reason. I love Wanda, but I'm saying unfortunately for a reason. Steven then has to get help from Wanda. You could then showcase her becoming a villain sometime later, right? But still giving him the chance to progress as a character, to solve his own issue, an issue that is now so much bigger than other issues he's had to face, because a broken multiverse, come on now, the stakes are extremely high. So imagine the kind of character development that we would get from him if he messed something up that's this important and had to fix it. And you could still give us villain Wanda. You could hold it off till a little bit later in the movie. Change the plot up a little bit so it's not WandaVision 2. Give us a different reason for her to be a villain. Or even if you give her the same reason, you could hold it off. Or maybe give her her own movie. and let Doctor Strange have this one. Because I gotta mention,
The entire plot of No Way Home was changed because Multiverse of Madness was supposed to come out before No Way Home. Why do all the switcheroo if the two don't even connect? And if they don't connect, why advertise it and make it seem like they do?
I know I'm getting really heated here, but like, is nobody else like annoyed by this? I feel as though I've been cheated out of a very good movie.
I also think the fans did overhype like the cameos and stuff, which was our fault. But besides that, the way they marketed this movie, no, why'd you do that?
Wanda's story, I'm not the biggest fan of it because I love her as a character, and I was so happy watching WandaVision when they finally had her come into the Scarlet Witch title. And then we took it in a weird direction that was kind of misplaced, which is my other gripe with it. I mean, we got the Scarlet Witch like that, and then all of a sudden we lost her like that. It's rough because it really does feel like we got a whole new character, which we kind of did because she just came into her Scarlet Witch title. But again, we lost it just as fast as we got it. That's disappointing and frustrating as a Wanda fan. You know what I mean? I feel like Scarlet Witch and Wanda fans would have wanted to see that fleshed out more. I know I would have. And kind of dragged out a little bit more. Maybe get a taste of like a villain arc in this movie, and then later on she gets a whole movie. Like, hey, wouldn't it have been perfect to introduce the X-Men and she's got to fight them? I mean, I wasn't a fan of seeing her snap Professor X's neck. But again, here's an alternative to let her villain era actually be an era and not a moment. Speaking of Professor X, I personally think that the fight between the Illuminati they barely even got any hits in, but the Wanda versus the Illuminati scene was probably the best scene of the whole movie. But even then, it's only good because it's intense. It's not good because it was a good fight, and that's my problem. I think that Professor X and Captain Marvel were extremely underpowered, or Wanda was extremely overpowered. Yes, she's already super powerful. Yes, she has the Darkhold. But they didn't even let Professor X try. I mean, seriously, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Also, Reed Richards, you're a damn idiot. You're the reason why everybody's dead. Do I love the casting for John Krasinski as Reed? Absolutely. I'm actually worried that we won't get him in the future because of what they did here. And I'm really hoping that we get him just from a different universe. You know, it doesn't have to be from, 838. It can be from a different universe. And we can still get John Krasinski as Reed Richards. That would make me so happy. And then get Chris Evans back as Human Torch. My life has been complete. Full circle. Full Marvel circle. When it comes to the Illuminati fight, I just genuinely believe that Professor X could have done more. I mean, he's pretty powerful. Do I still think Wanda would have killed him? Yeah, but I think that the fight could have been more interesting. It could have actually been a fight and not just, oh, let me reach for the alternate Wanda. Oh, there's a red cloud. What do I do? Oh, now I'm dead. Like, do you know anything about Marvel, Sam Raimi, and the writers? I don't know the writers' names, but do you know anything about Professor X? Quick question. Do you know anything about Professor X? Right now. Answer quickly. Right now. Right now. I mean, seriously, it feels like he didn't try. It feels like he didn't try, and he's super powerful. Some people have proposed alternative situations that could have happened. Like, if Reed wasn't an idiot, then Professor X could have temporarily paralyzed her, and even if it would have only lasted for 5 seconds, it would have been enough time for Black Bolt to kill her. But obviously that would have made the movie end too quickly. So I get not doing things like that. But again, if you're going to have somebody like Professor X introduced in a movie like this with a really powerful Wanda, make that an interesting fight. That would be so cool. And if you gave us like 10 more minutes of the damn movie, you could have done that. My next gripe. I think that Wanda's death and just the ending of that movie in general was cheap. I still feel as though her just being like, oh, I changed my mind, all of a sudden I don't want to murder people, is it's just a little cheap. I don't know. My last gripe, which goes hand in hand with that one, this is definitely the one that's going to get my head on a spike, but you start to really dislike her in this movie. It becomes very difficult to like her, to justify her actions, to justify her decisions. So loud. It becomes very difficult to like her in this film. Even for me, I reached a certain point where I was like, oh my God, I just want somebody to kill her. I was getting so angry. I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, the only way to stop her is literally for her to just die. But hear me out. And the reason why when Wanda fans hear this, they get so is because they're so far up her butt that it's unhealthy. No, I'm kidding. But the real reason I think why people don't like to hear this is because they think that having that gripe and being like, hey, Wanda, you have gone way too far. They think that that's like a hit to their character and to their favorite character. It's really not, love. It's not, right? Because here's the thing. In this moment, her whole being has now been surrendered to the Darkhold, essentially. She's not operating under her normal way of thinking. But even then, you have to realize the Darkhold is amplifying the parts of her that were already there. Before she even has the Darkhold, when she walks out and she's freaking out at the FBI, who are literally only doing their jobs and trying to save the innocent people in the Hex, isn't she wrong for that? Are her motives valid? Absolutely. Is her grief and her trauma valid? Absolutely. Which is why I feel sorry for her. And it's another reason why I don't like her death, because I was hoping that there would still be hope for a redemption arc in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I feel sorry for her. I do. Her motives, her trauma, it's all valid. But again, if she was making those types of decisions with her conscience intact, Darkhold was only amplifying what was already in there, babe. First of all, she's a fictional character, so the fact that people get this up in arms when somebody has any critique of her is scary. Like, please, step outside and go touch some grass, I'm begging you. It's okay to like a villain. People are fans of Loki. I'm a Loki fan. If I sat here and tried to be like, well, no, he's not a villain. Yeah, he is. You can say that his character developed and he became an anti-hero, which he did, but he started off as a villain, and also I'm pretty sure he spends most of his time in the comics as a villain, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, who cares? They're fictional characters. They have these titles for a reason. Anti-hero, hero, villain, whatever.
It's okay to admit that she was a villain. I don't understand why people are, like, freaking the hell out. Like, again, she's fictional. She's fake. She's not real. Touch some grass.
Even me, I am a die-hard Wanda fan. And to this day, even after seeing Multiverse of Madness, I still love her. But at the end of the day, she's a villain. And that's okay. Does that invalidate anything that she's been through? No. Everything that she's been through is absolutely valid. Especially when you watch WandaVision and you see the kind of trauma she went through and how sitcoms always helped her get through it. And that's why, despite her realizing that she had the Hex, because she didn't realize it at first, when she created her own real-life sitcom, it was almost like what we do every day when we, create our own little worlds in our head that help us escape. That's what she did, except, unfortunately, her powers are so much stronger that it affected everybody else around her. But that's why you start to also feel bad for her, even when you're angry at her. At least that's kind of where I stood. When she snapped Professor X's neck, I was so mad. But you start to dislike her, and then in the same vein, want the best for her. Because you realize, like, yeah, she's been through a hell of a lot, number one. And number two, despite everything that's happened to her and everything that she's done, you still hope in the end of it that somehow she can make it out on top.
And I mean, hey, despite the fact that I literally just said I still love her, I'm still a fan of her, and I'm sorry for her, there are probably still going to be Wanda fans that want to put my head on a spike. If Peter had killed Green Goblin, I would have been mad at him, right? Because when I was watching it, there was part of me that was like, yeah, and then there was that part of me in the back of my mind that was like, Oh, wait, maybe don't kill him, though. Let's maybe not have blood on our hands, Peter. So, like, if he had actually killed Green Goblin, I would have been very angry. Because, again, were his motives right? Yes. Is the action wrong? Also, yes. And he's my favorite fictional character to ever exist. So if I could say that about him and still be a fan of him, I can say that about Wanda and still be a fan of her. So I don't want to hear shit from anybody. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, like I said, overall, it's no higher than a 6.5 for me out of 10.
Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. If the Wanda fans hate me, oh well. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, whatever.
And I'm back, so expect some more videos. There will not be any more Friday videos. This is just the first day that I'm back. But there will be videos every Monday, every Wednesday, and Twitch streams will be coming sometime soon. I don't know when. And those will be happening on Fridays. I'm back and I'm better than ever.